What's happening, all you good looking fishing friends out there? I figured I'd take you behind the scenes, kind of a day with Debo. Listen, I've had a few little projects and things I'm working on, so I figured I'd share with you. First is getting a couple things rigged up, because if you missed the live show on Saturday, I said I want to do more swim bait stuff. So I've kind of been going through organizing things, looking at stuff that I've got, and I forgot that I had some of these things from some awesome bait makers. Look at that, from Cobrigger Customs, a big, huge pumpkin seed. This was the first rat lure I ever tried to make, and it actually works. It's ugly as all get out, but some rats. And then we look at some actual nice professional looking rats. That's from Sack Pig, had him on a while back. Pretty cool. You can see it's got the rotating hangers down there. He does the Kevlar tying. Now that is a rat. Another really cool little one from Top Banana Lures. I don't know, my man, are you still out there making lures? I haven't heard from you for a minute. Mr. Kadir, look at that. That thing is awesome. It's got a really cool wooden bait click to it. Really nice sound. Had a bunch of people say to get this one. This is the Bait Sanity Chimera. You see how much that bends to the side? That's something I've really been researching and looking a lot more into, as, you know, with a lot of these glide baits, I was just throwing them and then, you know, kind of casually gliding them back. And I've been listening to a lot of people talk, you know, that are actually good with a swim bait, about how important that is to kick to the side. And I'll kind of show you here. I've got the combos. I was messing with this. New to me, the Cashin Icon swim bait rod. Paired that up with the Chronarch 200 E7. Little pay homage to the old E-series Chronarch. And then this is a sweet little wake bait from Toxic Baits. Caesar over at Toxic, he's probably one of the first guys I ever started to follow in the swim bait stuff. I'm going to hit him up right now that I'm thinking about it. See if we can get him on a show, because I've got a few of his and he does great work. Seems to be a really cool down-to-earth guy. I bet we could get him on, so I'll hit that up. But he's got these are the new like ABS plastic instead of the resin. They're only like 50 bucks. He had them on sale, so great deal. A lot of these places, that's the problem, are charging $150, $200, some of these crazy prices. And I know people put a lot of work into it, but it's hard for me to, you know, justify paying that. I'm like, am I even going to get into it? This, just because I was messing with it, this is their frog rod, so it might be my frog rod for the year. This is the, I forget what this is, the shad lure. I rigged it up. I actually cut the belly of it and made it like this just to throw it around to see if you could catch anything on this type of shape, because I've got a few of these different soft plastic, you know, essentially like the Mag Draft. This is the Megalojohn, the Spro one. Pretty cool. I threw it around, had a good action to it. But again, just not knowing when, where, how to throw these. This was the line through. I think it's like Texas Swimbait or something like that. I don't remember, but I couldn't get it to swim straight. Looks awesome. It's got the line through thing, hook up top there, but every time you throw it, it roll on its side. I put some Nico weights down here and I still couldn't get it to ride right. So I didn't want it to be super fast sinking. You know, I could obviously add a bunch of weight to it, but I don't want it to just sink like an absolute missile. So if anybody has any of these soft plastic rigged ones and you get them to run straight, how do you do that? Because that thing looks 100% like a gizzard shad, but it always swims like this. Gizzard shad usually don't swim like that. I also got from that same company a little crappy one with a fixed hook to it. This looks pretty sweet. I was thinking of throwing it on that frog rod deal there. Looks neat. And then this was an old, I forget the company it is, but I was going after a bedding bass, like 10, I don't know, 15, 20 casts to it. It finally grabbed it, took the tail off. Dizzle come over 2 casts later and caught it with a jig. But anyway, threw a different soft plastic tail. I had it from a custom on it that was ripped up. And we'll try that too. So yeah, just some of these different swim baits. And if we go over here to my working area, we'll flip the light on here. Yes, I've still got the whole airbrush. This is an absolute mess. I know this is going to be shaky, but this is my my setup here. Clearly not a high-class studio, but I'm working with what I got here. But I've been tinkering with lures. This is one that's going out in a giveaway to a subscribed fishing friend. That was actually kind of the homage to the rat that I painted up for Sack Pig Baits. But I've been messing with stuff. I've got some of these glides like this. These are like the Mega Bass, or I forget what it is. This one's going out to a subscribed fishing friend. I did this one, kind of like a crappy color. The lighting over here is horrible. And this is actually one of my favorites. I did in like a threadfin shad. So I did a couple these little Bandit 100s in that color. Looks really cool. It's got like a color shift that goes purple to blue up top, little yellow on it. But anyway, I've been tinkering with lures and I wanted to make my own swim baits. This is what I've got. It started with 2 pieces of wood. I used my X-Acto knife, I used your regular utility safety knife and sandpaper to make it. And holy crap, it took a lot. Now you can see I severely underestimated how much lead it would take to actually sink this wood. Testing it, I'm like, I don't have enough room, because people are like, well, just drill holes. Well, I can do that, but then I was running into hardware. I wanted to use long enough screws that really went most of the way in here to get a good bite on those screws when you glue them in. And this is what we're left with. So it's not the prettiest thing. Luckily, I can cover this up with paint. So I sealed it with super glue first to waterproof it, put the weights on and stuff, and then I added a coat of 2-part epoxy to smooth and round all this off. That way I can sand it here and paint over it, and you're not even gonna see any of those weights anyway. So it also has a really neat knocking sound to it. Goes almost all the way over to the side, not completely, but it kicks over pretty well. If I want to, I could always take, and sand these corners off to really make it go completely side to side, but this was just my first attempt at it. You can see I'm clearly not a professional. When I put it in my helping hands, which is one of these things, it's just got 2 little alligator clips on it. Those, I put it in there to dry, and apparently it shifted, so this screw eyelet is kind of kitty corner. I need to clean it up. This can't change now. It's going to be crooked. So, hey, listen, clearly I'm not a professional here, but working on things like this, I found this. This was one I painted, and it's a resin swimbait mold. I think they call it like the dink shad. So I bought like 3 or 4 of these. They were like 40 bucks, I think, something like that, $30. Pretty cheap for a resin bait, but some guy was making them, kind of sold them in bulk. So bought a few of these. It actually looks pretty dang good. Almost goes all the way over 90 degrees. I'm going to take and use the Dremel to cut right here inside there, cut some of that to make this actually go all the way over side to side. And this I could really see becoming one of my go-to little swim baits. Kind of it was supposed to look like something ate it, but I guess a werewolf attacked it underwater. I don't know what I was going for. Then I've also got these swim baits. This one I had one painted up like a shad. Worked really well. I caught, what was it, like a 3-pounder on it? My biggest glide bait fish ever. I think it was just under 3 pounds, 2.75, something like that. I know that's tiny in the swim bait world, but that was a huge win for me because I think that was my first ever swim bait fish. But these blanks are pretty cool. It's got the shad profile to it. I've got some of these left from the days I was painting. I'm going to take this and sand it all the way down so I can get this tail to really kick back. That seems to be the deal with a lot of these swim baits, is the ability to work that swim bait and have it kicking. So instead of bringing it to me like an S-waver, something gliding, if I'm working by like a dock or a piece of wood, I can snap that hard and get it to walk back and forth real hard like a topwater bait underwater there and kind of freeze, kind of like a jerk bait mixed with a topwater walking bait. Speaking of, I did make my own topwater walking bait. So I've got the eyes will go in there, do kind of some different paint up here, etched a little thing in. I forgot to etch in a gill thing to it, but whatever, they're not going to see it. This one actually did turn out really well, nice and even. I don't know how much lead it's going to need to make it run right, but I did get some lead wire, and you can just rig up some lead wire on the hooks, and hopefully that will be enough as well. So I've just kind of been tinkering. Why not? It's winter. Ice fishing has been pretty spotty, but trying to go when I can, but it's been slow. I've got skunked the last time I went out, so that sucked. So you see, the real question here is, as I go through, modifying these baits and throwing these, trying to learn the tactics, I wonder, are the big swim baits overrated? I've had a lot of people say that. After the live, I had some people message me saying, well, just throw a jig or throw a stick bait or all this other stuff. It catches fish just as well as big swim baits. But listen, there's something behind the big swim bait game. The very last day of fishing this year, I was throwing this. This is the new Spro KGB Glide, the Chad, Shad, whatever it is. I've got to actually, hold on. I've actually got one of the old OG Chad Shads. I think I got this in like 2018, something like that. My man TJ, when I went out on the boat with him, he told me to get one of these. So luckily they had a drop and I got one. I've got one of the old OGs. These were going for a bunch of crazy money. But anyway, the whole deal behind these, is there something behind the big swim bait? And I think there is, because you see these guys giving up conventional fishing and pretty much just being these big swim bait, glide bait guys. That's all they throw, right? Every time I've thrown a glide bait, I think, except maybe a couple, I've had followers. And I still remember the first day, I think it was the G-Rat Sneaky Pete G-Rat baits. I was throwing that on a rocky point. It was Dizzle and I out fishing, and I had, I don't know how many fish follow that, like good 2-3 pounders right up to the edge, and I couldn't get them to bite it. So there's definitely something behind that drawing power, that pulling power of it. So that's why I want to experiment with it more. Now, again, I'm not going to be like fully, you know, everything I throw is only this, because I just love going out to fish. And the hard part of this is, you know, I might only have 2-3 days a week to fish. So I want to make sure I'm going out, you know, getting footage, catching some fish, having fun. Whereas if I wasn't doing YouTube, I could certainly afford to, you know, spend more time to grinding these baits and throwing only those and trying to learn it. But it's interesting to me, you know, the thought process behind this. You know, these big fish are smart. They're not going to waste time for a little, you know, 2.5-inch Ned rig, but they see, you know, a big bait like this looking injured coming by them. You know, it triggers that predatory response and they want to eat it. So I want to know from all of you. Comment below and let me know your thoughts on this, because there's some stuff I'm going to get into with the Swimbait stuff, from gear to, you know, going out on the water and sharing it with you guys, even if it's a slow day, in hopes of learning this, because I think there really is something behind it. Now, the other interesting take I've heard on swimbait fishing is it's just a way to sell more lures, right? Bass fishing has been recycled for a number of years as far as lures, techniques. You know, how many different spinner baits can you make and sell to the market? How many different, you know, jigs can you make, or plastics? So the argument that I've heard, which, you know, who knows, maybe there's something to it, but people have said, well, listen, they're getting into this BFS, this really small stuff, or this swimbait stuff, because it's a category that's exciting people right now, and they can just sell a bunch of these, you know, at crazy prices and really cash in on it. Like I said, maybe there's something to that. You know, there's some kind of weird swimbaits and quirky stuff out there, but again, I am horrible at swimbaits. I have only caught a handful of swimbait fish, actually only on the ones that I've painted, funny enough. Only caught a handful, but again, the drawing power of those, the days where I've thrown it, I've had, I think, pretty much followers every single time, and I've caught some decent fish. You know, both those times I caught, you know, the fish were 2.5, close to 3 pounds, so it's not like, you know, I was only catching 12-inch fish on it. Of course, I don't have the big 10-pounder yet. That's coming in the future, hopefully. But anyway, is it just a marketing scheme, this, along with BFS? Is it just another way to sell to anglers, opening up a new market? Because, you know, of course, in the years where COVID hit, you know, fishing just absolutely skyrocketed. Sales were out the doors. You know, everybody was going outdoors. So, you know, margins were just overflowing for these fishing companies. And then, you know, after things started to return to normal, people got back to their jobs, you know, going on vacations, doing all that. Not as many people out fishing. So some people have said that companies and other folks have focused on this as a way to kind of capture that market. I don't know. You know, to me, fishing is kind of like anything. There's always going to be changes in it, whether it's in, you know, motor vehicle stuff, you know, financial stuff, whatever it is. Things are always going to kind of go up and down. But I really do think there is something to the swimbait game. So if you've got any tips for me getting into this, something that, you know, gear you want me to look into, or, you know, a specific bait, you know, if I had to put my money on it, I really think that Clutch Eco Glide is going to be the one. You know, not super cheap. I got it on the Tackle Warehouse sale for, I think, like $70 or whatever. But if that one proves to be it, that's not a horrible buy at $70. You only need one, as opposed to some of these swim baits that are $200, $300, $400, $500, crazy amounts, which is why I wanted to make my own little ones. So we'll see how all that turns out. But anyway, comment below. Let me know what you think of all this, kind of behind the scenes. If you want to do some more of these, just kind of Debo fish and talk, I would certainly be happy to. Let me know what kind of topics and such down below. We can dig out old lures, go through stuff. I don't know, have a good old time. But today's subscribed fishing friend, well, it's got to be my man Dersh. Dersh, I owe you a care package for the donation the other night on the live. Dersh has been a supporter for a long time. I've wanted to get him on for a live to talk kayak fishing. He's a hammer up in his area. And that's the cool part of fishing is, you know, doesn't matter where you're from, what you're doing, everybody's kind of got their own spin. Some people are good at finesse. Some people are good at these swim baits. You know, I could spend multiple days with one frog blow up focusing on frogfish because I'm like, hey, I got one blow up. There's got to be a bunch of them here. That's the cool part about fishing. And that's, if I could ever travel and learn from people, that would be it. Like, the deep cranks is something I want to focus on. Being able to travel and focus, you know, learning with people that are like, this dude in his area, he's a deep cranking guy. He's an absolute god at it. You know, being able to learn from them. So that's a cool part of fishing, is there's always something new to learn. But anyway, I need to edit. Love y'all. Thanks for watching. And until next time.